Michael Eisner and Kelly Ripa.
So Kelly, thank you for coming here. Let me just start off by saying that when you joined Regis, the show jumped 75% in ratings in the women category the first year. It's up again this year, another 3%. So unless it was new lighting or something in the air, it seems that your introduction under that show had an enormous impact. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you for having me. I credit the lighting. I really do.
Well, lighting is important.
I think the lighting has everything to... Honestly, you know, let me just say this. I was a loyal viewer of Regis and Kathy Lee, and that show has, you know, no show stays on the air for 17 years anymore. If you get 7 years out of a show, it's a big thing. So for me, when I watched the departure of Kathy Lee, it was a week of goodbyes, and I think the ratings really started building then. People started tuning in and saying, my gosh, Kathy Lee and Regis did so many wonderful things together. What a great show this is. So there was that build then. Then Regis started having all of these co-hosts come in, and so people really started tuning in every day just to see who was there. And Regis, let's face it, has chemistry with a doorknob, with a chair, with a painting on a wall. He can make it work with anyone, and so people tuned in for that. And then, of course, the big announcement of who was finally going to be the replacement was me. So I really don't think, I mean, I appreciate the credit, but I don't think it's credit that I really deserve. It's a well-done show.
You did do a guest host early.
I did a few guest hosts, and you know, my whole thing was that I really enjoyed that. And had it not progressed beyond that...
But how about the Mystic?
Yes, of course.
Wasn't that the first?
That was the first time.
Well, explain that. And or was that planned?
It was my very first time guest hosting on the show, and I was only there guest hosting because somebody else canceled. The host they had originally scheduled canceled, and so I stepped in at the last minute. I worked at All My Children down the hall for 13 years, so I was a very easy sort of, can you make it here in 4 minutes? Yeah, I'll be right there. So I showed up. Nobody knew I was pregnant. Mark and I hadn't told anyone. It was very early on.
You had told Mark?
Mark knew, yeah.
That's fortunate.
But yeah, I would hate to surprise him. So nobody else knew. So I show up and Michael Gelman comes in and sort of says, this is this and that is that, and don't worry about this, and try not to look at me, and Regis will handle the majority of it, and just go with the flow and be yourself, and there's no job at stake here. So get it out of your mind that you're up for some job, which was, whether he knew it or not, so helpful to me, because I figured there's nothing to lose, just go have fun.
So you didn't think it was an audition?
At all. On any level did I think it was an audition. So out comes Char Margolis, the psychic, and she looks at me and immediately says...
I was picking up someone deceased with an E initial.
Yes.
And in her name, is there an L or a D in it?
Now, in my mind, my grandmother's name is Esther, but all of her friends called her D. But I'm thinking, no, that wouldn't be right. And I said, no, my grandmother's name isn't D. And she said, it's Esther, and everybody calls her D.
I knew it was an E female. Is this your grandma?
Yes, yes. And now I'm a skeptic, and I'm totally dialed in. Look, I still have I have chills talking about it.
The internet.
No, the internet. Come on. Who am I? I'm like Haley Vaughn on All My Children. Nobody knows about my grandmother's nickname D. You know, so she says...
She's also shown me another baby, and I don't... and she's saying that she's going to watch over you when this new baby comes, and it's soon. It's not far away.
Regis turns to me and says, "Is this true? Are you expecting?" And I sort of just broke down crying, and I said,
"I haven't told my boss yet."
Oh my God! Oh my God! I think at that moment, for what it was worth, people pulled for me. Maybe.
From that moment on, they loved you.
I think maybe that was it.
All My Children, which I was running daytime and put on the air, I still followed Erica for 30 years.
Can you imagine?
I remember a casting session when she was 17.
Oh.
Casting her, and she's been married 52 times.
Isn't that amazing?
But you walk on All My Children. I mean, it's almost like you're not even auditioning, and you're there for 13 years.
I literally have what I like to call the accidental career. You know, I went there because there was so many of my friends that were coming to the city doing extra work and roles, and so I went there for the same thing. You know, hey, who needs to work at a clothing store for $4 an hour? I can do some extra work and make $80 in a day, was I think the going rate at the time. And I walked in.
Sounds like Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, I mean, it was so...
Moving from the suburbs into the city to do well.
I walked in and they said, can you read this script? And I read it and they said, can you be here tomorrow at this same time? And I came back and there were callbacks and 2 screen tests because I was horribly inexperienced. And I got the job.
You and Mark, your now husband, lived the characters in real life that you were playing on the show? Became those characters?
Mark sort of, it's hard to say. The lines are so blurred, and daytime is such an interesting thing that sort of what happened in our lives would wind up being written into the show.
And working with somebody who you were going to marry, that worked out well?
Well, you know, the interesting thing was that Mark and I were very concerned. We did not want anyone having any ideas that we could not be professional on the set. So a lot of people didn't know we were dating until after we had gotten married, really.
And with the family you came from, where tradition was so important, wasn't eloping?
Oh, it was a horror. Oh my gosh! I mean, do you have to bring it up now?
Well, it's been a while.
We still say eloping. You know, the only thing that made it okay was the 3 grandchildren it produced.
So your family's finally gotten over that you did this to them?
They've finally gotten over it. It took like 11 years.
Kelly Ripa has chemistry with everybody. Kelly Ripa connects with her audience because she's so likable.
The glorious MC. MC Regi, they call it.
You can't be likable unless you're real. You can't fake it 5 days a week.
Let's pretend this is my normal walk.
She is now becoming Kelly Inc. She's got production arrangements. She's a spokesperson for big advertisers. She's an entrepreneur. She works hard, and she's now part of the American media landscape. Kelly Ripa is an all-around Oprah in the making. All right, so you have a marriage, you have 3 children, but you also have, you're becoming an institution. People think you're the next. No, that you are. I hear the next Oprah. It's Kelly. You're doing commercials. Obviously, you did the sitcom. You're very much in demand.
I will do anything for $1. There, let's just get it out in the open. Let's just say it right here on the air. No, I think that opportunities have presented themselves to me, and it's very funny because at the time when the talk show was sort of on the table, a lot of people said, "You better not take that. That will end your career. You're not a talk show host. You're an actor. You're interviewed on talk shows. You don't want to be hosting a talk show. That will end everything."
They were wrong.
And to me, I never put those kind of barriers up in my mind. I thought work begets work. Opportunity begets opportunity.
There is a lot of business you're doing. You and your husband, Kelly Inc. You're into a lot of things. You're in all that. I think you're in more magazines.
Oh.
Shape magazine.
Yes. Well, I mean, eventually, if you stick around long enough, they'll put you on a cover of anything.
That's
really.
not true. And Hampton magazine, I don't know, can you see that?
Never underestimate the power of a good airbrush artist. That's all I have to say.
You're so self-deprecating.
Well, because it's true.
It's a fabulous picture.
Thank you.
That is, I love
Thanks.
it.
I mean, I enjoy that stuff. It's fun. It sort of gets you out there and promotes you in a way that doesn't seem too self-promotional, but you know, you want to let people know what other things you're doing.
How are you taking advantage of your obvious success, your likability in business? Are you going to?
Well, it's very interesting.
Doing things with Mark?
I have to say, that because I have the talk show, it has allowed me on a couple of different fronts to sort of open other business opportunities. First and foremost, the sitcom came like that. What it showed me is that I really did have a passion for sort of making the show happen, which is why Mark and I started a production company. But in terms of like all of the sort of media stuff, you know, it all goes back to that morning show, that great opportunity that a lot of people said I shouldn't do because I was an actor and it would ruin my chance at acting. You know, I sort of go on the air every day, and during those first 20 minutes, that host chat, where we don't know what the other person is going to say, we open up and we talk about our lives. And I find that action of just talking about my life, talking about things that I do in my life, have just brought to me other business opportunities.
You're like aren't you a spokesman for companies?
I one day told a story on the air about OnStar and how OnStar settles marital spats between Mark and me. And the company, you know, immediately contacted me, thought it was great, and so, you know, I became a spokesperson for the company. I one day got a stain out of Regis's shirt, you know, on the air using Tide. I became a spokesperson for the company. So, you know, these things, when you take on sort of the advertising side of things, signing up to be a spokesperson for companies like Tide or like OnStar or Commerce Bank, you have to believe in what you're talking about. There has to be a ring of truth to what you're saying, or people will sniff it out like that. You know, and I think that's what's so beneficial about my job, is sort of I haven't had to go seek these things out and say, well, I can say this is really great or that's really great. I've just said it, and then they call me and say, would you say it? Would you say it? And come on board with our team. And it's something I believe in already.
It's definitely a younger, blonder Oprah. That's what we have here. A younger, blonder
Not
Oprah.
necessarily blonder, but it's amazing what they can do nowadays. Okay?
What's it like doing it when Regis is not there, when you have a co-host?
It's more, you know, it's so interesting. It's more work when Regis is not there, I have to say.
Do you want the other people to do it the way Regis did it, or
well,
you
there's
just
no, you can't do that to another person. It's not fair to them. It's really not, because you're saying, I want you to climb this mountain, and
so they just do it their way.
I want them to be themselves.
So you have great people, or do you people come on and you say to yourself, how am I going to get through this hour?
I don't think that's ever happened to me, really. I think for the most part, I've been really, really fortunate. We use a lot of the same people over and over again. But there's no, you know, Regis is Regis, and to me that's like the shining hour of my day. I have guys that I like that come on and they're amazing. They're really, really talented and really good. But for me, Regis is the show, and you know, I like watching him just the way the audience is watching him. I feel like I have the best seat in the audience, really.